The sun was a molten brand searing the vast unbroken sky, its heat pressing down upon the land with merciless weight. Julia Carter's cracked lips parted as she drew a shallow breath, the air itself dry and unyielding. Her skin, once fair, was darkened by sun and dust, her dress torn and stiff with old blood. The wind carried the scent of scorched earth, rattling through brittle sagebrush as if whispering secrets of the dead. She knew then, with cold certainty, that she had been left to join them. The wagons were gone. Not a trace of them lingered on the horizon. Not a single glimmer of iron-rimmed wheels. No dust trail curling into the sky. Just an empty expanse of desolation. Her hands trembled as she pushed herself upright, the movement sluggish, each muscle shrieking protest. They had abandoned her like a spent cartridge, discarded without thought or hesitation. The night before, when they had made camp by a withered creek bed, Julia had sensed the shift in the settlers' eyes. They no longer looked at her with sympathy or even pity, but with something colder, practicality. The wagon master, a man of thick shoulders and a thicker scowl, had spoken quietly to the others, his words lost beneath the murmuring wind. Julia had known what was coming, but knowing had done nothing to stop it. They had not even left her a horse. She staggered forward, her boots dragging in the dust. A single canteen lay beside a rock where they had tossed it, as if that meager offering would ease their guilt. The water inside sloshed weakly, less than half full. She lifted it with hands stiff from exhaustion, took a careful sip, and forced herself to swallow past the tightness in her throat. She would not cry. Not for them. Her husband Samuel had been shot a week past, a bullet tearing through his gut during a raid near the trading post. He had bled out beneath the punishing sun, his fingers wrapped weakly around hers, his lips forming words she could not hear. And now he was gone. She had thought grief would be her end, had thought she would simply waste away in the back of the wagon, her body as lifeless as the man she had loved. But the settlers had other plans. They could not afford dead weight. A vulture drifted in lazy circles above her, its black wings catching the sunlight. It knew. It had seen this before. Julia pressed her fist to her stomach, forcing herself forward step by step. The land stretched in every direction, hard-packed earth, distant red rock mesas, dry riverbeds that promised water but delivered only dust. The heat had a weight of its own, dragging at her limbs, settling into the hollow ache in her chest. She walked because there was nothing else to do. She walked because to sit was to surrender, and she had not yet decided if she would. By midday, the world wavered at the edges, mirages twisting across the flat land like mocking specters. She had long since stopped wiping the sweat from her brow. It was better to let it drip than to waste what little moisture she had left. Her mind wavered between exhaustion and memory. Samuel's laughter, the way he had looked at her on their wedding night, the whispered promises of a future that would never come. Then she saw the shadow. It was small at first, little more than a suggestion of movement near the rocks ahead. Julia blinked against the sun, her hand tightening around the canteen. The shadow shifted again, resolving into a figure, tall, still, watching. A man. Her breath caught, her heart pounding in her chest, a mixture of fear and wild, desperate hope surging through her veins. She had no weapon, no means to defend herself if he meant harm. But he was alone. That at least was something. The stranger did not move as she approached. He stood against the ochre-colored rock, his arms loose at his sides, the long barrel of a rifle resting easily against one shoulder. His face was cast in shadow, but she could see enough. High cheekbones, dark eyes that missed nothing, black hair pulled back in a loose tie. An Indian. The settlers had spoken of them in whispers, with fear and loathing. Wild men, savages, raiders who took what they wanted and left nothing but bones behind. Julia had never met one. She had never expected to. Now there was no one else. She stopped several paces away, swaying slightly on her feet. He watched her in silence, unreadable. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words caught in her throat, thick and useless. She swallowed hard and tried again. Her voice cracked, weak from thirst and fatigue. She cleared her throat, squaring her shoulders. I need water. The man remained motionless. A breeze stirred the dust between them. Then slowly, he lifted his free hand, fingers pointing toward the canteen at her side. His meaning was clear. She already had water. Julia's grip tightened around the flask. Not enough. Silence. His dark gaze held hers steady, assessing. Then without a word, he turned and walked away. Panic clawed at her chest. She took a stumbling step forward. Wait! He did not stop. Julia surged after him, her legs nearly giving out beneath her. Please, she gasped, her voice raw. Please. He paused. The wind whispered between them, the land stretching wide and empty in all directions. Then, with slow deliberation, he turned to face her once more. He studied her, really studied her, and the way her dress hung in tatters, the way her breath came shallow and desperate, the way her fingers trembled despite her effort to still them. She was nothing to him, less than nothing. A dying woman on a dying trail. But he was still watching her. The man exhaled softly as if deciding something. Then he moved, stepping toward her in a way that made every instinct in her body scream to flee. But she didn't. She couldn't. He reached for her. Julia flinched, but he did not strike her. Instead, his fingers brushed against her wrist, closing gently over her pulse. His touch was warm, solid, real. Then, without a word, he lifted her over his shoulder like she weighed nothing at all. The world tilted. She gasped, struggling weakly, but she had no strength left. The desert spun around her, her limbs heavy, her vision swimming. Somewhere in the distance, a vulture cried. Then, darkness. Julia woke to the scent of smoke and unfamiliar earth, her body sore in ways she hadn't thought possible. The world felt different. Warmer, close. She tried to move, but a thick hide covered her, its weight pressing her down. Her fingers brushed against the coarse fibers of a woven mat beneath her, and slowly, cautiously, she opened her eyes. The shelter was dimly lit by the low glow of a fire, its embers pulsing with soft light. The walls were curved, made of packed earth and timber, and smoke curled lazily toward a small opening in the ceiling. It was not a place she recognized, nor one built by any settler's hand. Then she heard it, the quiet rustling of movement. She turned her head sharply, pain lancing through her neck, and saw him, the Indian, the man who had taken her. He sat across the fire, his posture at ease but his eyes sharp and aware. He was mending something, a strip of leather, working the sinew through it with practiced efficiency. His long hair was loose now, falling over his shoulders in a way that made him look both untamed and wholly in control. He did not acknowledge her at first, letting the silence stretch between them, heavy with meaning. Julia's mouth was dry, her voice rasping. Where am I? The man didn't look up. You are not dead. It was not the answer she wanted. She swallowed, glancing around, trying to piece together what had happened. You're home? She asked, though the word felt foreign in her mouth. He nodded once. She shifted under the blanket, wincing at the dull ache in her limbs. She had been carried far. She could feel it in the deep-set exhaustion weighing her down. Why? Now he did look at her, his dark eyes unreadable, reflecting the firelight in a way that made them seem endless. You were dying. She had nothing to say to that. It was the truth. Julia pushed herself up, feeling the heat of the fire seep into her skin. You should have left me. A shadow of something, amusement maybe, flickered across his face, but it was gone before she could be sure. He returned to his work, seemingly unconcerned. I did not, he said simply. The simplicity of his words unsettled her. She studied him, searching for some sign of his intent, but his face revealed nothing. Her fingers curled around the hide covering her. What do you want from me? She asked, her voice quieter now, edged with suspicion. For a long moment, he didn't answer. Then he set down his work, leaning forward slightly. Nothing. She wanted to believe that, but she had lived too long among men to trust it. Nothing came without cost. And yet, as she sat in the warm glow of the fire, her body no longer shaking from exhaustion, she realized something unsettling. For the first time in days, she wasn't afraid.